hope you've been enjoying this weekend's Yarra Valley Garden Party, and I'm pretty stoked right now because I'm standing right here at the entrance to one of Victoria's, well, let's say one of Australia's most popular visitor destinations, the Tesselaar Tulip Festival. All stretches way behind me here, and I'm really excited because here we are in the beautiful Dandenong / Yarra Valley, where I've lived for many, many years, and true confessions, I've never actually been here. Been past it 100 times, never been in, not once. And I can't tell you how popular it is. I mean, normally on a beautiful spring day like this, at this time of year, it would be thumping. It's so popular, they have a car park out there that's like just for buses. But not this year, of course, due to our old friend, you know who. But don't despair, Teslas are already planning what it's going to look like post-COVID, when they're going to be welcoming you back, their beloved visitors, with open arms, and it's going to look absolutely fabulous. So why not let's go in and have a little sneak preview, just you and I, meet some people, have a little look-see around, because let's face it, it's going to be the only time we'll ever get to come to Tesselaar's all by ourselves. Better do the right thing. Walk this way. And who better to speak about Tesselaar's tulips than the man himself, Paul Tesselaar. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Michael. How are you?
Good. I think we can dispense with these. We are media, so we can officially, legally get away with it. What a strange year.
Yeah, look, it is all over the place, isn't it? But still plenty of things the way they should be.
Tell us what it normally would be like on a day like this at this time of year.
Normally with weather like this, we'd be swimming in not just tulips, but lots of visitors enjoying the sights and sounds of the Tulip Festival.
Yeah. People here, people there, people everywhere.
You know, food trucks, market stalls, live music, live entertainment. Yeah.
Well, I'm quite happy because, as I was saying before, I get the whole place to myself. Look, we're having this fabulous conversation. Before we get to the history of how this place came about, tell us about this unique, what I think is beautiful, beautiful pink streaked tulip, but it's actually a dud. Is that right?
Yeah, so this one we found on the ground. So this is what we call a virus tulip. What we want in this particular
virus tulip. Okay,
yeah.
Hang on.
Yeah.
Just a sec. I think I've better put this back on. Go on.
Yeah. So this is virus. So what we should be seeing here is a clean pink colour in the flower.
Because that's what people want to buy, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what we want to buy. What people want to buy. That's what we're selling. If we're selling a pink flower, we want it all to be pink. What you can see, the characteristics here is the streaking up the side of the petals here.
Yeah.
That indicates that this is suffering from a virus. Not
right?
coronavirus, but it's a tulip virus.
And yet back in the day, during the 200-year-old tulip craze, when Europe went bonkers, and you could, some tulip bulbs were worth how much, Paul?
Yeah, so if you had a bulb that was producing a flower like this, it was worth as much as the best house on the best street of all of Amsterdam. So you can think about what that's worth now. Yeah, so what it is, it's the virus. So what we've done, we found this on the ground, is that we've gone through all this pink variety, found anything with that, and we've given it a bit of poison just to kill the bulb.
Bit of poison?
Just the individual bulb. And we snap the head off just to indicate that this one's been treated.
Can you sell these though? Because these look so pretty.
Oh look, we don't pick any of our tulips for cut flower because that will slow the bulb down and give us an inferior flower next year. So because all of these tulips are for show, and we want the best fields of colour for people.
And what a show it is.
We don't pick any of them. So in fact, we chop their heads off.
A poor beheaded tulip, the French Revolution. you were telling me before that, because everyone assumes tulips come from Holland,
Yeah.
but before that they come from...
Yeah, from Turkey. So
Turkey?
a lot of people don't realise
No.
that they originated in Turkey and Asia Minor. And the world's first tulip festivals were held in Turkey. It was the Dutch that commercialised the tulip. They're the ones that made lots of money and lost lots of money as well, mind you. But it originated from Turkey and Asia Minor.
What's the story of how the Tesselaar family came to have tulips in
Yes, so
this
we
beautiful part of the world, in the
Yeah.
Dandenongs?
Yeah, we have a Dutch heritage for those that don't know. So our heritage is tied to the Dutch component. So my grandparents emigrated from the Netherlands in 1939. My grandfather,
Very, very wise time to leave Europe.
yeah, my grandfather could see that there was unrest in Europe, and he was working on his parents' farm doing flowers and bulb growing. And he could see the bulb exports to Australia were slowly increasing. They weren't very large quantities, but
Yeah.
there were already tulips and daffodils and so forth going to Australia. And he read about two Dutch ladies that would travel the world and write about the different places they visited. And they gave a glowing report of Australia being a land of opportunity.
Yes.
So he put all those things in the mix.
And the Dandenongs in particular.
Yeah, exactly. He put all those into the mix and thought, he's got to leave. So he went and asked his girlfriend to marry. He went to England for a couple of weeks to learn English and get all the bits and pieces he needed together to come to Australia. And they emigrated in '39. They went to a couple of different ports around
Yeah.
Australia. When they came to Melbourne, they landed at the piers on a Sunday, and it was dead quiet. So he thought, not a very good place to be. So they continued up to Sydney, and it was a hustle and bustle. And he thought, this is the place for me. But someone at immigration heard they wanted to grow flowers, so they said the climate was probably better in Melbourne.
Okay.
So they came to Melbourne, and they started growing these tulips out in the front fields by the road.
And scientifically and botanically, how much does this area replicate ideal Dutch tulip growing conditions?
Yeah, it's not perfect because as you would know, our summer here is very hot.
Yeah.
So that can affect the tulips a little bit. So we can get on to how we deal with that. But how the festival started, to finish that off, was
Please.
growing these tulips in the front fields. In the 50s, all the people travelling through the Dandenongs, if they drove past in September, they would see this field of strange looking flowers. They weren't new to Australia, but they were strange enough still
Yeah.
to be a curiosity, and people were stopping and jumping the fence to take a closer look.
So just Australia's biggest tulip festival started by a bunch of local freeloaders
Yeah.
jumping the fence.
Yeah.
Did they try and pinch some of the flowers?
Probably
did.
And the crowds were so big that by 1954 we opened up the gates and said, righto, all of you come in, take a look around.
Made a virtue out of a
Yeah.
necessity.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
and then it just grew from there through the generations. So my grandparents did that, and with my uncles and aunts in their traditional Dutch costumes, dressing up, picking flowers for people. And I had a turn with all my brothers and sisters and cousins. We all did the clogs and the funny hats and the costumes, and we had a good holidays working together in the fields. And parents and uncles and aunts built it up, adding elements all along the way, so much so that we moved from being the tulip farm to the tulip festival. So it is a celebration now.
You forget that Tesselaar's is primarily a farm.
Yes.
And most of your business actually comes from bulbs, doesn't it, actually?
Yeah, bulbs and other plants as well, yeah. And tourism, obviously, nowadays.
But the tourism part, this is just something you decided to give back to the locals, this magnificent vision we have before us.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I like it. Yeah, indeed.
And is this the first year that you haven't been able to have it, 2020?
I believe so. I don't know of any other year when we've not been able to open. And I was trying to think about other times that may have happened, but there's none that come to mind.
Well, hopefully next year will be an absolute ripper.
Yeah, I hope so. Look, I think so, because what we do with the bulbs this year is normally we'd leave the flower heads until the festival is finished, and then we take off all their heads.
Yes.
Off with their heads, the show's over. We'd love to pick them and give them away, however, chopping their heads off aids in the growth of the bulb and the flower for next year. So the sooner we chop them off, the better it is for the flowers next year.
And you have to sort of do a bit of crop rotation, don't you? These, you can see these, the lawn areas behind us, that rotates, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes you have beds here, sometimes it's flowers.
Well, next year, the flowers will be here,
Right,
and the
okay.
grass will be there.
Okay.
And the reason why we do that is, again, coming back to the virus. is we want to, normally in the Netherlands or Tasmania where we grow loads and loads of tulips, is the ground is rotated and it won't have tulips planted on it for another 7 years. So it's every 7 years that the ground would have tulips. Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously we're limited by space and we need to put on a show every year, otherwise there'd be an uproar of no tulips. So we rotate every 2nd year, so which means we need to keep on top of our virus control.
Okay.
Very well. We need to do a really thorough job of that to minimise virus.
Paul, it's a huge place. I had no idea it was so big. Can you take me for a walk?
Yeah, let's go for a walk.
Good on you. What happens in the greenhouse? And I've heard there's a really good tractor. Can I get a tractor ride?
Yeah.
Back with Paul. We've got the windmill in the background. Okay, Paul. Here's our Insta. Here's our Insta. Yes. Oh my God, the windmill. Okay, done it. Thank you very much. Are they easy to grow?
Windmills?
Tulips? Windmills.
Tulips.
Windmills,
Yes.
very difficult to grow.
Yes,
Very difficult to
yes,
grow.
yes.
I've tried planting windmills.
We've tried. Next year we might have 2 there, so come back next year and we'll see if we've been successful. In our multiplication.
Next year you won't be able to see them for the food trucks.
I hope so, and for the tourists enjoying the day out in the fields. So,
Are tulips easy to grow?
yes, very straightforward. So what you do is buy your bulbs from reputable bulb growers, where you know that the bulbs are being treated the right way, as in, you know, they're taken out of the ground before summer hits where it gets too hot. So what you need to do is buy your bulbs from your reputable growers, pop them in the ground, give them some fertiliser as they're actively growing. Come spring, you've got a field full of flowers.
You don't actually breed new varieties of tulips, but it is done, and it's a very painstaking process. You were explaining before.
Yeah, it's a long
Long haul.
It's a long haul, yeah. So it could take up to 10 years to get a flower from you know, cross pollinating or collecting seeds and so forth. So you've got to be a real nut. You've got to really enjoy it and have some great patience, because you've got to wait, you know, up to 10 years to potentially get a flower to see what has eventuated from your pollinating.
Wow.
So what they would do is they'd actually do probably hundreds of varieties in a year, and then only choose, you know, the top 10 or 20% and breed that on, and then the process goes on from there.
Around the property, how many individual varieties would you have?
Yeah, so we've got about 120 varieties here.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
so there's a lot to choose from. You know, there's lots of reds, but different characteristics. I can take you through some if you like.
I'd love to. What are the rare colours? Well,
Ooh, rare colours. I think black is pretty rare.
there's a black tulip.
Yeah, there's a black tulip. It's one of the most sought after. We've got a couple here I can show you.
Really?
We've got 2 different black varieties, believe it or not.
Wow.
And another rare one is flaming parrot.
Okay.
So the parrot names comes from the frilly edges of the petals, the flower petals. They look a bit like a parrot wing.
Yes.
And it's got flames up the side. And what makes it rare is it doesn't reproduce very well. So you get low yields.
Okay.
But that makes it rare.
Supply and demand.
Yep. What else? But then there's all sorts of colours, every colour under the rainbow basically, except for blue. Blue's a bit tricky. There is a blue parrot, we don't have any of those, because they're very hard to come by. But that's probably the only colour that is a bit of a struggle again.
Your personal favourite?
Monsella, which it's a double tulip, so lots of layers of flower petals, almost looks like a rose, and it's got streaks of red and yellow up the side, like a flame.
Okay.
And I'll show you one of those.
Lay on, Paul.
Let's go.
Let's
me.
have a look at some of these rare birds. standing here, Paul, I actually really see why people come here. There is something so, I don't know, so sort of life affirming about just standing amongst all this variety of life and colour. It's almost overwhelming, but in a positive way, a beautiful way, literally.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see why people come out of Melbourne, out of the grey buildings.
Absolutely.
Up to the Dandenongs where you've got fresh air, nature, and throw in splashes of wonderful colour.
And at just the right time of year, because we're emerging from our infamous Melbourne winter.
Yeah.
And I'm for, awful for this year, of course, but hey, I've got the place myself and I'm really enjoying it. Now, I'm assuming that this sort of variety lot here is some of the ones we've been talking about.
Yes.
Because I had no idea that there was so much variety. What are the ones with the pointy leaves and the serrated leaves?
So we talked about a couple of different ones before.
Petals, I should say. Petals.
Petals,
yeah.
yes. So the one with the pointy tips, that is called a lily tulip because it has pointy tips like a lily would.
Yep.
Yep. That
looks
one
like
right
a lily
there.
to me.
You can see where versus, say, a more traditional shape where they're more mounded. So.
And I'm assuming these are what you're referring to was
Yes.
the black. They're not actually black,
come
are
on,
they?
Don't, shh. No, they are black. If I shade them, they look more black.
On a crummy Melbourne day when no one will be here anyway, overcast, they'll probably look dark greyish black. Yes,
Very
I'll
black,
give you that.
yeah. Black Queen of the Night, they call it.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah, Queen of Night, yeah, is one. There's Paul Shearer, which is another.
Okay.
There's even, so we talked about a couple of other varieties, a double. This is another good example with the lots of layers and layers of petals, like a rose almost.
Okay,
lots of layers. Another favourite is the parrot tulip over here, where you've got this really wild sort of frilly edges to it. It's not quite the lace, which is this one here with fine lace edges. This one's wild, like if you can imagine the wing of a parrot.
Yes, very much so.
Very similar to that.
You were saying a little bit earlier that the European tulips are actually longer because they have to. Is it because they don't get smashed by our summer, or they've got to struggle up? Is that?
Well, yeah. So the growth through winter and spring, it's more subdued. There's less light. It's a bit more gloomy over there. So a variety like this one here, which we call the Monet tulip, here in Australia grows 80 centimetres to a metre.
Yeah, that's a lot.
In Europe, that'll grow another 10, 15 centimetres. And the flower head, this opens up to be quite a big goblet, like the size of a saucer.
Right, okay.
And yeah, in Europe, taller as well. There's actually, we've got 120 varieties here, but over in Europe, there's hundreds more.
Right.
But what we do is we select the ones that are great for Australian conditions. So there's a lot that just won't grow here because the summer is too hot and they get knocked around a bit. So they all go through a bit of a selection process, and if they can fit neatly into one of our categories, or we think they've got some sort of virtue, then we will choose it and put it in our list for sale. But there's lots of other beauties that just aren't available in Australia because they just don't do very well here.
Just take me over there.
Yes, come up this way.
Oh, more tulips. More tulips.
Yeah, more tulips. Let's find one of my favourites here. So there's some more parrot tulips here, Case Nayless. That's a very popular one, great for Australian conditions. I think we're going to have to go on a bit of a treasure hunt because I really want to find Monsella and show you which one is my favourite. The ones with the flames that I talked about before.
Yes.
Come with me.
Right. Well, Paul, I believe we have found our tulip holy grail.
It took a while. But
It took a while, but we got there.
There's too many tulips, Michael. Too many.
There's not too many. There's just enough. But what was? Now I've even forgotten the name of what you told me it was going to be. But it's spectacular.
Monsella.
Monsella.
So it's a double tulip, Monsella. And here it is.
Oh,
Look at that beauty.
it does actually look like a conventional. I mean, you think of that as being the traditional tulip shape, but it is still tulip.
So it does start, nice and tight like that. But as it ages, it unfurls like a rosewood, I suppose, and you've got these beautiful layers upon layers of petals, which is unusual for a tulip, which is single layers, and we've got this wonderful red streaks on a yellow base. Spectacular.
Hard to grow this one in particular? Or
No,
is
not
it just...
particularly. It is a shorter variety. Again, it is shorter than we would like in Australian conditions. However, because it is so beautiful, it's got these double, lots of layers of petals, we've chosen it as still great for the garden. You just need to put it in an area where you can have shorter flowers as opposed to the taller Monets.
Well, Paul, thank you so much for showing me around this beautiful place. It's
Pleasure.
exceeded my expectations. As I said, I've lived in the area for a long time. I've never been here before, but what a special treat to have this almost sort of private viewing. I hope you've enjoyed it too.
Yes, indeed.
Best of luck
Thank
for
you.
next year, whatever
you.
next year brings.
Yeah, bigger and better tulips, remember, because we're chopping the heads off sooner. Better, stronger bulbs.
Well, they'll be wanting to show off more
They will,
next year because
yeah.
there haven't been as many
Yes,
people around
yes.
this year. So look here, let's do the COVID bump.
Thank you.
And thanks so much,
Yeah.
Paul Tesselaar,
Come
for
again.
showing me Teslas. I certainly will. And if you want to see more tulips, I tell you what, grab a beautiful glass of perhaps Yarra Valley wine, Pinot, Chardonnay, whatever your choice, and watch some more beautiful tulips to the sounds of the Yarra Valley Opera Festival.